Hello there, and welcome to my basic guide about bridges in Dwarf Fortress. In this video, I'm going to talk about how to build them, how to operate them, and what you need to know to make them safe and workable for you, and I'm going to introduce some very common usages for bridges. I'm not going to elaborate any more complicated builds like magma pistons in this video because that is going to be the topic of an advanced video in the future. With that being said, let's get started. You will find your bridges in the construction tab. You will require stone, wood, or metal to build them, preferably blocks because that's just more material efficient. Bridges come in two flavors, as you see here. We have the drawbridges and retractable bridges. Drawbridges, they can be controlled with these four buttons. Basically, here we control the element which will remain in place when the bridge has been raised. So you see where the cogwheels are. That's the point where a wall will be built up once we raise that bridge. I'm going to raise the bridge in a second. If it isn't clear yet, it will become clear then. So with these arrows, we can control in which direction the bridge shall face when it will be raised up. And the retractable bridge, you build those only with that one button because here the direction really doesn't matter because you will just make it disappear when you raise it. So let's pull the lever because bridges can be linked to levers, and I'll show you what happens with these two bridges. So the drawbridge will rise up and there will be a wall remaining, whereas the retractable bridge, just like the name implies, completely disappeared. So let's pull that lever again, and these bridges will go down or reappear. So the major difference between these two bridges has become clear. The retractable bridge just disappears, and the drawbridge just goes up and down. And here's another thing. This thing goes literally physically up and down. What's on the bridge when it gets drawn up gets flung into the air, and what's below the bridge when it comes back down gets crushed into nothingness. So be careful around the edges of your bridges where they go up and down, whereas a retractable bridge, you'll just lose the ground under your feet, and when it comes back up, there's nothing happening like physically like this. And the drawbridge has here at this point a indestructible wall. When it's up, it cannot be destroyed by anything. It's literally like any other type of wall that you can build up, and therefore there's a lot of different uses for these. So now we already know pretty much the basics. There's few things to say. The drawbridges can go up to a width of, I think, 10 is the maximum, but I'm not sure where the maximum actually lies. And a retractable bridge can be built directly on the chasm, as you see here, whereas the drawbridge, it needs to be anchored on an edge, so we cannot build it here directly on the chasm. It needs to go here, and as you see here, we can select for ourselves how wide and big that goes. And what's important to note, the wall that comes up here will be always one tile wide and one tile high. No matter how huge the bridge is, it won't go up in the elevation levels more than one tile. It is weird like that. Just accept it. Dwarf Fortress science. So that's the basics about how they work. Now let's go to the usages. I mean, the most common usage we have already illustrated here. It's perfect to go over a chasm or river or anything, but that's way too obvious. What we do here, for example, is another really cool thing that you can do. Here I have built up a bridge that's just sitting there. A bridge doesn't need to cross anything. It can be just there. And like you already might have noticed here, if we now, after that thing has been linked, pull that lever, we will have a wall here. And that's an indestructible wall that seals off the entire base of ours from the rest of our world. And that means with bridges, boom, you can build walls. Walls that can be raised and lowered as you need them. And things go even better when we check out a situation like here. If we now set up a bridge here, well, it's a little bit blocked by the traps, but If we'd set up a bridge here and a bridge on the other side, which doesn't work right now because it's blocked by the traps, but you surely can imagine this way. If you'd built that wider and larger, you could easily trap enemies between two walls by just raising them up. And as you see there, another thing to note, you cannot build the bridge over stuff like other traps. That doesn't work, but nobody would stop you to dig a chasm below that thing and drop your enemies into sizzling magma or any other things, just to give you a couple of ideas. So here, a couple of other things that you can do with that. You can destroy items with those bridges because, like I said, everything below the bridge gets smashed. That's a commonly used strategy to get rid of old items or get rid of unpopular dwarves. You can surely arrange a little bit of a bridge accident by building up a burrow, tell your local baron to inspect the quality of the bridges, and there might be a tragic accident, and yeah, well, that's a commonly used strategy to get rid of people because the funny fact about that is it won't be any crime. There will be no. It's the perfect crime. The dwarfs don't know who did it, basically, when you get smashed by a bridge. It's the cleanest crime ever, so commonly used strategy. And when it comes down to trap things, I think I have already given you a nudge towards the direction you can build elaborate mazes and other fantastic things. But another usage I might imply here, if we would bring up a bridge down here below the floodgate, like exactly at this point, we would create ourselves a alternative to a floodgate. If we now raise the bridge as it is there, it will block the water just like a floodgate would, but it is indestructible. Floodgates can be destroyed by destroying entities, whereas a bridge cannot be destroyed. It can't destroy, though, titans and other two huge things. If you smack a bridge on top of a dragon or a bronze colossus or stuff like that, the bridge will just deconstruct. There are limits to dwarven technology after all. But if we have this as an alternative to a floodgate, it's really, really cool for several reasons. First off, it cannot jam. A floodgate, if there's anything inside there, it cannot be lowered anymore because it's jammed, literally by a sock or anything like that. Whereas a bridge, well, if there's anything below the bridge goes smash and the item doesn't exist anymore. So it is a floodgate that cleans up behind itself. Also, another thing that's a little bit less obvious, but if you want to create a floodgate for an area like down here, you'd need 3 floodgates if you'd want to build a proper thing here, and need to link that to 3 levers, or need to link these 3 floodgates to 1 lever, whatever. But if you do that with a bridge, you can just draw 1 bridge and link that to 1 lever with 1 mechanism, and it's way less of an effort. So there are lots of good usages for bridges as floodgates, as anti-intuitive as it might seem. And another thing, the smashing of items can also be used to get rid of things in a larger scale. Like if you have too many rocks of a certain sort, if you have too much refuse, too much litter that you can't work with. It is a proper it is a acknowledged tactic to smash things like that. You just need to put a stockpile below the bridge and then make sure that there's no dwarf around when you destroy your litter. On top of that, you can do so many more things, but that will be topic of another video. I just wanted to give you the basics so you know what you can do with bridges. They are more than just something to cross a chasm with, and I hope that helped you out. So feel free to drop me your comments, your ideas, what you do with bridges are also very welcome here. Share the ideas, I'd be really, really happy about that. Also feel free to drop a thumbs up on that video and consider subscribing if you haven't done so already. There's daily content coming up from my side, and there's also a playlist link down there to all the other Dwarf Fortress tutorials that I did, so you might want to check that out as well. So have a wonderful day, thanks for watching, and see you soon, I hope.